Okay, Shabbat Shalom. So the situation is I just recorded for, I don't know if it was 2 hours, but close to that. And the audio was sabotaged for the beginning. The audio jack was plugged in. Therefore, I couldn't, there's no sound. Like the first video I did, not the first video, but the one previous to the last one. So 2 videos ago, we had the same issue. I forgot to unplug the audio jack. So please remind me unplug your audio jack next time. So I'm gonna do a Reader's Digest version of this newsletter because I feel it's just that good. It's just such a good newsletter. I'm not gonna go over the whole thing as I did previously, but just hit the highlights. So this one is called "I Will Send Evil," and this is published today, December 18th, 2020, and it is the new month, 11th month, and it's the third day. Uh, So December 19th, the Zoom meeting will take place 12:30, but it actually starts at 1. 12:30, they do the songs and liturgical prayer uh, portions. New moon was sighted uh, Tuesday evening, or sorry, Wednesday evening, because Tuesday evening was not sighted. Therefore, Wednesday was the first day of the month by default. And I saw it the during the latter half of the day, and it was a beautiful crescent moon and a nice clear sky on Thursday. So it was just over about 2 days old at that point. So let's get to this newsletter. When is it okay to talk about other people? So in Judaism, we know of Lashon Hara, disparaging speech. And the gist of this section here is basically saying that um, there are 3 people that are harmed by Lashon Hara: the person speaking, the the gossip, the one listening to it, and a third person, which I can't remember at the moment, but there are 3 people who are hurt by it. Um, I may or may not find it here, but just know. Oh, here it is. And the person about whom it is told. Okay, so that's a third person. Um, and there's an interesting thought here that in Jewish law, all things are considered to be a secret unless the person says otherwise. So, for this reason, you'll note in the Torah that Elohim constantly says, Yah Elohim says to Moshe, speak to the children of Israel, saying, or he will say, speak to the children of Israel and tell them. So, this is explicitly expressed to Moshe. And if he doesn't say this, if he doesn't have this preamble or this, the preamble to the words that will follow, Moses would not be permitted to share his words. He'll be forbidden to repeat it. Nor is there any time limit on secrets. So there's a Talmudic story of somebody, student revealed a secret that he heard 22 years ago and immediately was banished. So let's see. So that's the gravest of these sins regarding gossip is Lashon Hara, the evil tongue, and usually involves discrediting a person, saying negative things about a person, even if they are true, even if they're true. Um, so I brought up the point that a lot of journalists, so-called journalists, are not really journalists, but these people who report the current events, they tend to slander and spread false rumors without any facts. So the consequence for doing so is pretty bad because essentially you're breaking the commandment where it says do not bear false witness against your neighbor. It's not just false witness. It's specifically for the purpose of ruining the reputation. And in a lot of ways, doing that Slandering somebody, gossiping is a lot worse than stealing from someone, for example, because you can always replace an item, but you can't restore someone's reputation, or that's very hard to do that. Reputation is very hard to build and it's hard to restore once people are no longer trusting or they've lost their credibility. And that happens when people do this gossiping. And then we have a section, when is talebearing allowed? So it says a person is required to reveal information when they are in a court of law. Um, there are circumstances, for example, if you're entering a relationship, if someone is entering a relationship and they normally would not if they knew certain information, or you're, somebody who is entering a business agreement and the person they're entering into that with is untrustworthy, then you would also have a moral obligation to reveal certain facts. And then there's this section here, and I mentioned this in the video that didn't turn out, that I'm not going to comment on this because it's not a good use of the Shabbat. Whatever, whoever and whatever Yah's plan is for whatever country and whatever leader will be, what will be. And nothing we say, think, or do will affect that or prevent that plan. And then there's about COVID-19 here. Not going to comment on that either. I do believe it is a very real uh, situation, very infectious, and we need to take precautions. However, as we've seen over the last year, that the death toll uh, is not what we expected. Um, it wasn't as severe as I was expecting. I was thinking hundreds of millions, and I mean like billions. Like I was expecting a large amount, like piles of bodies, at least 10% of the population dead, and that didn't happen. Time revealed the truth of the matter, and we know now. I mean, I do believe Yah sent it, but anyway, let's just keep going. I will send evil. Um, that's the gist of this newsletter. Um, okay, let me just skip ahead. Actually, a lot of this was from the previous newsletter. And then it talks about diabolos, which is the Greek for Satan, for false accuser, devil, slanderer. And one of the biggest points in this newsletter is the fact that when you read the name Hasatan, it doesn't always necessarily uh, identify the devil. I mean, Lucifer or Hallel, whatever name you want to use. When we read the word Hasatan, it doesn't mean Satan isn't his name, basically. It's a title. It's like saying the friend or a friend. When you think friend of God, you think Abraham, but if you just see the word friend in the scriptures, you don't think Abraham every time. It could be somebody who's friendly or somebody who's another friend. But enemy or adversary is rendered as Hasatan or Satan in many instances, but that doesn't always mean it's Satan. It could be even a different angel. For example, in Numbers 22, where you have the angel who was standing in the way as an enemy against Balaam. And that's a very good example of a verse where we see Satan, the word Satan, doesn't denote Satan. It just means adversarial. Okay. And then we have this podcast or exchange from Nehemiah and Keith. And it's pretty interesting. that there's three words for enemy. They have esek, contended with, and then they have sidna, which is quarreled, and then of course Satan, which is enemy. Enemy. So we can see there's. Oh, pardon. Okay, so I'm doing this pretty much for fun. I don't really care about the views because I know that what I originally recorded was supposed to be the one where I look at the views and go, okay, did we reach 10 views? Because if we didn't, I won't do the next one. I'm just doing this just because I want to. I just want to do it. I just want to present this because I really feel it was very helpful in many ways. So I'm gonna hit the highlights again. Um, okay, so a lot of people read the word evil and say, okay, that's calamity, and in a lot of ways it is. But people don't want to associate evil with Jehovah, with Elohim, and you know what? He does create calamity, but I have to disagree with what they're saying. That he doesn't create evil, and I don't mean evil in general as nothing that is bad that happens. I'm talking about sin. God isn't the one who creates sin, because that's not what He does. He cannot sin. Right? He decides not to. He's holy. If he did sin and he created sin, he wouldn't be holy anymore. So I have to make that express that opinion that may not agree with Sightedmoon, but anyway, that's just the truth. God doesn't. He isn't evil. He doesn't do evil, but uh, I mean sin. He doesn't do sin. He doesn't create sin. People choose to sin when they miss the mark. He's holy and remains holy and will forever be holy. But the word evil in Hebrew, ra, this other uh, rendering, is bad, evil, morally, naturally, calamity, affliction, adversity. So there's so many ways that it can be expressed. And yeah, he does bring calamity, especially if somebody is disobedient or they're rebellious and they need to be punished. And so then calamity will take place, or will be unleashed on those individuals or nation in order to chastise them so that they would correct themselves. See, it's a purpose. The calamity serves a purpose. It's not evil for evil's sake, where just somebody is a psychopath going around and destroying lives just because they have a bloodthirstiness. It's not that. Um, okay, let's see. In the Garden of Eden, yeah, they chose the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. They could have chosen either one, but they listened to the voice of deception and chose to learn about evil and good. And for the past 5,856 years, we have been doing that. In the book of Job, the enemy, Hasatan, could not do anything to Job except what Jehovah allowed him to do. Pay attention. So it's not a chess match, it's not a battle that's happening here. Yah is actually using him, uh, Lucifer, uh, to carry out his plan. So, in all of the above promises in Leviticus 26, Yah is the one who's going to do these things to us, or for us, if we walk in his statutes and keep his commandments and do them. If we keep his Sabbaths and revere his sanctuary. If we will not keep his Sabbaths, if we will not keep his commandments, his statutes, if we do not revere his sanctuary or his name, then the following will come upon us. And I brought up a point about this revering his name, that the Lord's Prayer, it's famously known as, the line, hallowed be thy name, in my translation, if I can show it to you right there, it says, may your name be treated as sacred, which I find a very interesting way to express that. Because yes, his name is holy, but if we don't treat it as such, we do him a great disservice. We bring shame upon his name and upon us. Uh, it is Jehovah who's going to do all these things to us if we do not obey. So Yah is not some boogeyman of our imaginations. I read that as bogeyman last time, but it is a boogeyman. Yah is going to do it. Yah is going to be our enemy. He's going to bring this evil, this calamity upon us. Yah will be a hasatan for us if we don't obey. And sometimes, it's our own sins we we that that punish us. It's not. A lot of people think, okay, we're punished because of our sins, but that is partly true. But a lot of the ramifications of our own actions are what punishes us. It's not Mother Nature. It's not some mysterious man working in some back room with a secret plan. It is not your government plotting to destroy you. It is not the devil that is coming against you. If you will not obey Jehovah and keep his commandments and revere his name, then he is going to come against you. Jehovah will be your adversary. There's only one God, and his name is Jehovah. If we obey him and keep his commandments and his statutes and revere him in his holy place, then he will protect us and keep us in the palm of his hand away from the harm that is coming. We have nothing to fear. He is with us if we obey. And I'm going to read Romans once I find it, chapter 9. It's a very good way to put things into perspective. There was a section in this newsletter as well that talked about these Zoroastrian deities and how a lot of Christianity and even to some degree Judaism view the relationship between God, and but when I say God, I mean Elohim, Jehovah, our Father, and Satan, the devil, Lucifer, as a battle, like it's a struggle as to see who will win in the end. But it's not that at all. It's the truth is Jehovah, our Father, is using Satan. He's being used to fulfill the plan of the Father. So, and I also brought up a point that, you know, whether you believe in a lot of different ideas, and I'm not saying they're not true because there's a lot of facts about regarding corrupt governments, communism, a lot of things that are just that go against the Bible, against Torah. Whatever you believe, and I'm not going to, criticize you whether you believe them or not. Uh, the point is, if Yah isn't protecting you, then there's really nothing you can do. And on the other side of the coin, if you are with Yah and He's protecting you, there's nothing that they can do to you. But regardless, whether He allows your life to be taken peaceably or violently, it's His will and that's His plan. And if you recall the lives of the prophets and those saints who were beheaded before us, I'm sure if they had a choice, well, a lot of ways they did have some choice, but most people don't want that in our day and age. They don't want a horrible, gory death and pain and trauma. But if you really understand the way ancient people think, a gory death and being martyred is not a shame at all. It's actually the highest honor you can get. I don't know if it's just a masculine thing, but to die in a blaze of glory is so kind of romantic for us men. Um, Especially in wartime. Like, say we're in a war right now, and I have nothing to lose, and I'm gonna go out in a blaze of a hail of bullets. But I know by giving my life that we can win. Bring us that much closer to victory, I'll do it. Better to die, you know, brave and have your life mean something than to die as a coward and have no effect. So in a way, when you have the mindset of those believers of the prophets, you understand that dying a death for the kingdom of Elohim, for Jehovah, will actually give you a higher uh, position. You'll have a greater glory. And you recall the way that Yeshua HaMashiach died, the most humiliating and painful death that any human being ever experienced. And he didn't deserve it. Now you understand why he's at the right hand of the Father. Not only was he um, one of the part of the Elohim, the Godhead being Elohim the Father, but he was the Word that was with the Father in the beginning, in the creation, even before that. No beginning, no end, but he still decided to do what he did. Amazing. There's just no words to express that. But so anyway, it's not a battle. It's not a battle. I'm just going to scroll up again just to find that section regarding the Zoroastrian part because it's very, people. It's very philosophical in a lot of ways that, um, we wonder why. Why is there suffering? Why does God allow suffering? Why does He allow these things? If He's and all knowing and He's all good all the time, why does He create evil? Uh, but that's not the case. You know, um, He's in control. He's in full control. Yes, things happen, but we don't see the bigger picture. Um, so I'm going to close with Romans, but let me just express that we all have our own demons. We all have our own traumas. Nobody likes to get hurt. And I'm not saying we should be sadistic and and seek to be persecuted. I'm not saying be stupid and let's get all martyred today or tomorrow. I'm saying that if it happens to you and it's unavoidable, then it's glorious. But if it's if it's something where you put yourself in danger just foolishly, that's not glorious. It's foolish. But let Yah be the one to guide you and just be obedient. And if he protects you, right? Like Meshach, Shadrach, Abednego, like Enoch, people, Moses, who he preserved. But if he doesn't, then we just have to accept it because suffering isn't always bad. Imagine life, going through life without any challenges. If it was up to us, we would probably not have any pain or any death or anything, sickness. But those things serve a purpose. I mean, I can't answer for every individual situation. For example, kids with cancer, babies aborted, things like that. I can't speak for those things. God is the judge overall, and He's going to judge righteously. He's going to give everyone a chance in the resurrection. People will get to know Him. But for the things, for a believer who really understands the heart of the Father, that especially when He's working for you, working with you, He's open your mind to what He expects you to do, how you should live, how you should treat each other. We know that this isn't in vain. Our suffering is not in vain. It serves a purpose. Satan serves a purpose. Although he's temporarily like an insane king over this world, he's serving a purpose to perfect us and make us like Elohim, and not for a moment, not for 4 more years, not for 20 years, not for 100 years, not for even 1,000 years, but to be like He is, and He meaning Jehovah Elohim, like Yeshua Hamashiach, to be to meet and realize our true potential, restore paradise just like it was in Eden, but even better because we're not going to be flesh and blood anymore. Into that godlike state, to be no longer created little less than the angels and all that, but like God Himself forever, eternally. Yes, there's going to be hierarchy, there's going to be different levels of authority. We're not all going to be in the same plane. There's some who are going to be greater in the kingdom and some who are less. But nonetheless, Satan is serving his purpose right now. And it's so profound and beyond any philosophy or any human um, reasoning. It's amazing. It's such an amazing plan that I just can't even wrap my head around it. But I'm just getting some glimpses here and there at the wisdom, the infinite wisdom of our Creator. So I'm going to close this video with Romans chapter 9, because I felt it fit very well with this newsletter, and it's verses 31 to 39. So then, what are we going to say about these things? If Elohim is for us, who can be against us? He who certainly did not spare his own son, but handed him over for us all, surely he will also give us all things as a favor, as well as giving us his son. Who can bring an accusation against Elohim's chosen people? Elohim is the one who brings the acquittal. Who can pass sentence? It is the anointed one, Yeshua, who died, but rather was raised up, who is at Elohim's right side, and who also intercedes on our behalf. What can separate us from the love of the anointed one's love? Can oppression, or difficulty, or persecution, or hunger, or deprivation, or danger, or sword? Just as the scriptures say, on account of you, we are killed all the day long. We are calculated as sheep to be slaughtered. But in all these situations, we are super abundantly victorious through Him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death, nor life, nor spirit messengers, nor rulers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor any other created thing will have the ability to separate us from Elohim's love, which comes by means of the Anointed One, Yeshua, our Adonai, or Adon. That's very deep. One more thought is in this newsletter, it did mention how that this pandemic is a punishment sent from above to get people to a place where they will come back to God, return to Him in humility, where they'll kneel before Him and say, if I should send this, or if I should do that, if my people are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray, turn, seek my face, turn from their evil ways, I will heal. So they understand the virus as being sent from above. Nothing goes over Elohim's head. Nothing is done without His approval, without His say, without His green light. And I strongly agree that, yes, this virus, although many ideas and there are facts about it being uh, being made, man-made, and what have you. But the point is, or the reality is that Elohim's plan overall. Nothing can trump his plan. Nothing can hinder his ultimate plan. And this is part of that plan. And we have to be thankful and gracious. Uh, I should say, have gratitude that this pandemic could have been a lot worse. This is only a warning shot. This is just the beginning of the birth pangs. It's more of a okay. Did I get your attention? Because this is highly infectious. Yes, people are getting sick, but people aren't dropping like flies. We don't see billions dead. We don't even see hundreds of millions dead. It's in the low millions. I think I don't know what the number is right now, but I think the actual number, um, whatever the number is, it's much lower than we anticipated at the beginning back in January, March, even April. I was uh, anticipating or I was forecasting. I would say I was thinking that hey, maybe this would reach a billion dead, maybe more. I'm very thankful it didn't reach that point, but this could just be a little tap on the shoulder saying, get your act together, people of Earth. Or also send something much worse. And it won't be man made. It's going to be directly from God Himself. He's going to release something just like He released in the camp of Israel, and thousands died in one day. And I mean, we won't see it, the spiritual reality where it's an angel going around killing it, thousands here, thousands there. We could see, a billion dead. I mean, Revelation already says like a third of the earth will die. So that's what? By that point in time, it'll probably be like 10 million people or billion. So that'll be 3 billion people dead. I mean, it's already given. It's going to be at least 2 billion, um, at least, the very least. So this is a wake up call. We, those of us whose eyes are being opened to the truth of the word, the scriptures, the truth about Elohim, the truth about ourselves and how we should behave, how we should speak, how we should think, how we should do, how we should relate to one another, how our relationship must be with our Creator. Uh, we need to do better. We need to really take this seriously. Um, I think that's all I have to say about that. So, thank you very much for your time. Again, this is not the usual where I read the beginning to the end, verbatim, word for word. But this is just a Reader's Digest edition because I really found this newsletter very insightful and helpful. Um, so, Lashon Hara. So, there's some questions about. Let me just read this question. The circumstance of someone who needs to talk about a person so they can seek advice or help. Perhaps they need help with mentally processing something, like abuse of various kinds. Is it against Torah to tell a tale because you need help? Was there position to do secret work? What about for the purpose of teaching, making correlations between real events and Torah? So where do you draw the line from being Lashon Hara and not? So here's the answer. It's a tricky subject. We've all been harmed by evil speech. None of us liked it. We were in the brunt of the joke. Uh, the harm done by speech is even worse than the harm done by stealing. Okay. Uh, okay, so this is the story about the feathers. Right. You know what? The answer to this, where you need to talk to somebody about a situation where you need advice or help, if it's very urgent. For example, if your life is in danger, you need to talk to somebody about whoever person. You need to exercise mercy. There is something in regards to mercy above the law. So if it's to preserve life, if it's for a greater, uh, the weightier matter of the law, which is justice, mercy, and faith. If it's relating to any of those, then yeah, you can. But we need to also test this situation with the commandment of bearing false witness against your neighbor. It's not just bearing false witness. The commandment isn't do not bear false witness. The commandment is bear false witness against your neighbor. Because if we were to use that uh, bear false witness commandment as is without the against your neighbor portion of that verse, then we would have the Moabitess. Uh, I think her name is Rahab, but anyway, the lady lived in the wall. She would be guilty and we'd be stoned to death. But she did that. She she lied in order to save the lives of those spies. So how do we judge? Do we judge mercifully because it was for good, or do we judge, based on the letter of the law? Oh, she lied. Liars die. No, we judge righteously. We judge based on justice, on love, on mercy, on faith. And so, if so, in this question, someone famous died after they made a public statement that there was no God. Okay, like you're talking about people who speak blasphemy. Should we talk about this in a teaching environment? Well, that's a tough one because it's hard to conclusively to reach a conclusion that somebody died because of what they said, being blasphemous. The only clear example I can think of is Korah. He said, "Oh, Moses, you think you're better than us? God called us too. We're also important in all this. Who are you? Blah blah blah." And what happened? They had the test, and Moses said, "Okay, well, we'll see who God has chosen, and whoever loses, or the sign will be the earth will, you'll see something you haven't seen before." Then the earth swallowed him up and all his household, so that was a clear sign. But in terms of just people making statements like God doesn't exist and they get cancer, I wouldn't say that's conclusive because Elohim, our Father, is very patient with people in general. So if someone says something or they've had a life committed to atheism and debunking religion or debunking people following Torah, Elohim's long suffering. He's going to wait for them to change their approach or just to change. And look at the Apostle Paul, Shaul, where he was putting to death the believers in Mashiach. But Elohim was patient with them because he knew the end result. He knew the end of his life and he knew the purpose of why Paul was born. And he said, okay, well, I'm going to use this person and I'm not going to judge him for this right away or whatever. This isn't the end of him. So we can't say that this is the end of these people here just because they die in this lifetime. They could be used in the resurrection, perhaps. But I think we do have to exercise situational mercy, situational judgments. So if someone really needs help and they tell you about it, but you're saying you're plugging ears, la 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 lashon hara, I won't listen to this, but that's not showing mercy. I think you really do have to say, okay, is this something where you're trying to slander somebody, bring someone down, or is this really a necessity? Is this vital to your safety of others, your spiritual health, and etc.? So I think every situation needs to be judged based on a case by case basis. You know, you can't just judge it based on the letter of the law. It has to be the spirit of the law. So that's all I have to say about that. Very good newsletter. I think it's very reflective, very thought provoking, and very eye opening too in some ways about the Satan. The word Satan doesn't always mean Satan the devil, it just means adversary in some instances. And then the whole thing with tail bearing and when is it okay to tail bear? And although it didn't speak about when is it okay to lie, but sometimes white lies are not anti-Torah. Just look at what I said. The situation with the lady living in the wall. That was a white lie. Not all lying is bad. Specifically, again, Ten Commandments. Look at the context. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You're slandering them. You're uh, libel. You're assassinating their reputation. You're killing them with your words, so that no one will ever want to do business with them. People want to shun them. They'll be outcast from the community, them, their families, and that's hard to repair. It's really hard to build a reputation. It's even harder to restore a reputation, and that's wrong. And Jehovah knows that it's so important that he made it one of the 10 Commandments. When you bear a false witness against somebody, just words, but again, not like the nursery rhyme or however it goes, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. No, that's a falsity. That's a complete uh, dog-faced lie, as Joe Biden says, dog-faced pony soldier. It's a blatant lie. It's an outright lie. Words will hurt you. Just ask the Trump family. Did words hurt them? Did the journalists hurt them? You can bet they did. Big time. Was everything said about so and so true? Whoever, fill in the blank? No, it's not always true. Is it always factual? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But whether it is or is not, I mean, it says here, it does a lot of harm. And even if it is true, it shouldn't be shared. That's interesting. That's very interesting. I think that's kind of a gray area. I think it's a gray area. We can't be very, hard lined about that. But anyway, it's a really, really good newsletter, and there's a lot of potential discussion that can take place as a result. So maybe there'll be a big discussion on it tomorrow. But thank you very much for your time. I'm going to close this video now. Shabbat Shalom. And until next time, I don't care about the views for this specific video because I just decided to do it on my own kind of thing, not for people. I mean, for people who want to know the content of the newsletter, but not necessarily wanting to read word for word. But you get the gist of it. I just basically give you the gist of the highlights, or hit the highlights. So thank you and shalom.